All right, let me walk you through the quickest AC diagnosis ever. So it's a 2014 Camaro. Customer concern is the AC blows warm. Step one, we always need to verify the concern. Now you'll notice I've already got some tools hooked up, and that's just to make this more smooth. You see it's got almost 150K. I fire it up. All right, I'll give it a second. I'll come in here, right? And as a professional, I'm gonna warn you about some of the pitfalls, right? I go to look at this, all this is dead. None of this works. So it's kind of like, and you see once in a while, some stuff is flashing. So I'm thinking like, well, the AC doesn't work because this doesn't work, but don't get super focused on that. So let's just test it out. I turn this up, it's blowing air, you can hear it. I turn the temperature down. I push the AC button. You see it's blue snowflake. It feels warm. I'm gonna check my temperature. I'm reading nearly 100. If I pull this out, I'm reading nearly 100. It's going down just a bit. You can see that. So in here, you know, because it's inside the car, you know, a lot of times it'll blow a little bit warmer. But that measurement right there, on a hot day like today, that's what we're gonna call ambient. So this car, it doesn't blow warm per se, because warm would be like, if it's, let's say it's 90 in here, warm might be like it's blowing 120 in there, like it's blowing heat. It's blowing the coolest air it can, it's just not cooling it, right? So this car is blowing ambient. My train of thought is if it's blowing ambient, I feel the blower motor works, I hear the airflow. My next step is, as a trained technician, I want to see if the AC compressor clutch is kicking on, right? So now I'm about to point that out to you. That's your compressor down there. You see that? It might be a little too bright. It's even brighter, but there you go. You see that belt turning, but that compressor clutch is not engaging. Then I'm going to zoom out for a second. When the compressor clutch doesn't engage, that could be a number of things. For example, that control panel isn't giving a signal to the ECM, which isn't giving a signal to the relay, or you know, I have to study the diagram. But I'm pretty familiar with this diagram, and so basically I'll explain to you how it works and how I would test it really down and dirty. I'd say, well, it makes sense to check the fuse for the compressor clutch. So I'd come in here, look on our explanation here. You see that number 1 mini fuse, AC clutch number 1, shows it up here. That's this fuse. It's not really professional to pull the fuse out and look at it through the light, so I've got my power probe or meter or whatever, which actually still has its protective tip on it, so let me pull that off. You could use a meter for this, that'd be even better in a way. Here's what we got. I've got 14.6 going in, which makes sense because it's running. I got 14.6 coming out, that fuse is good. All right, the next step, I'd say, you know what, let me get a feel if this relay is clicking or not. So I can feel it, it feels kind of warm, I think it is. I'm gonna remove this. This may set some codes, if that's all right. All right, I felt it unclick. Now when I set it in its terminals, I don't know if you can hear that. You probably can't. You might if I set the microphone on there. Watch this. Right? I'm gonna bet you could hear that click. That tells me a lot. That really tells me just about everything I need to know, actually. Just about everything. So I'm gonna push that back in. This relay's clicking, which confirms that control panel inside is sending a signal to the PCM. The PCM is commanding the relay to close, and when it commands the relay to close, it should send voltage down here to that compressor clutch. Right? So now knowing that, I really need to check to see if there's voltage available, but I do want to show you one more thing, which is a lot of times the next step that I would do I would just go ahead and check the pressure in the system in a way that's kind of unnecessary, but 9 times out of 10 I see that they have a leak and they won't kick the AC compressor clutch on because they have a leak, right? But the fact that I saw the compressor clutch not kicked on, I can either go over here to troubleshoot electrical, or I could say the compressor clutch may not be kicking on because the system is low on refrigerant. When the system's low on refrigerant, the low pressure cycling switch or the refrigerant pressure sensor will see that it's low in refrigerant, and in an effort to protect itself, it will not command the compressor on, right? So I could do a little more troubleshooting, but I kind of don't need to. However, just to be thorough and to demonstrate to you what I could do, I could hook these high and low side up and I get a pressure reading 110 and about 120, or they're going to be about the same, right? So both these are reading 100 and something. Because it's pretty hot, that reading right there, that indicates the system is full, right? I'm going to call it, it's probably about 90 in here right now. So we should have about 100, maybe 105, maybe even as much as 110 PSI if the system is charged. I just verified the system is charged. I didn't do what most brainless line techs do and recover the system and see how much is in it. I already know how much is in it based on these static pressures, cool? And they're static because the compressor is not kicking on. I could have checked this without even starting it, right? So it's not a low refrigerant issue. The next thing that I would do is, first off, this car needs to get fixed today. So I'm going to shut the engine off because I want to get it cooled down. See, I'm still blowing ambient. The next cool thing I could do, because I've got the scan tool in here, it would be a good idea. Let me hang this for a second. It'd be a good idea to check to see if there's any codes, any DTCs. But the fact that I went out there and that compressor clutch relay is commanded on, I don't think there's going to be any DTCs. If there were DTCs that were going to prohibit the clutch from working, you know, they wouldn't have that relay clicking on, right? So I pretty much know what we got, but I'll still show you a couple tools. I'll connect to the vehicle. I can run a test to see which DTCs would be set. To save time, what I'll actually do is I'll just go directly into anything with HVAC. Right, so I'm going to skim these. Nothing with HVAC there. Seat heating was close, but no. HVAC, there we go. Let's just see if we got any codes set. No codes, so I'm not real worried about that. But let me show you a couple cool tricks to be thorough. This one is a really easy diagnosis, so this is a little unnecessary, but I'll still show you. Let's see what HVAC sensor data we can see. See if all this stuff looks logical. Look at that high side pressure, 129. That matches what that gauge says, so I know the high side pressure sensor is good, you know, so I can check some things. But really, to get down to the business here, what I actually want to do is I want to go in functional tests. And I want to go, you know what, actually it may not be in HVAC. It's probably going to be under powertrain. I want to command that compressor on. And because that compressor is controlled by the PCM, oops, I backed up one too far. Let's go for powertrain control module, or engine in this case, that's fine. It's an automatic. All right, function tests. Output controls, and I haven't used the scan tool on this vehicle, so I'm guessing. Okay, compressor clutch relay. Let's continue this. Now remember how we had the compressor, we had the AC turned on and I tested that relay? Well, I can also do it like this. This is the mic. Set it right there. All right, see that? Let's do it's usually, where's it at here? Nope. Come on, where's the on off? Let me figure the on off. There we go. Right All right, so you should have heard the click both ways, on and off. That's another good way to know if it's getting a signal, right? So if that relay were to not have been clicking when I turned the AC on, I could have manually commanded it on with this, and that should have forced the compressor clutch to turn on. But when I'm turning this on, I want to leave it on. It's on because I need to go way down there to that compressor, and I need to check to see if it's getting voltage at that connector. And honestly, that's like the hardest thing in the world to show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it looks like on the bench. All right, and you can use a meter. A meter would be even better in a way. This power probe's a little bigger than I normally use, but right here there's a connector coming in, and I will lift it and I'll show it to you, but you'll see really quickly why it's impossible to get on a good video. But there's a connector coming in right here. You can see the positive and the negative. What I'll actually do, I'll slide a back probe in, something from this kit. Cool, something really nice, something really gentle. Even a T-pin would be great. I'll slide the T-pin in here while it's connected, and I should get 12 volts right there. And then I'll slide it in on the negative, and I should get 0 volts right there. Now, if I back probe this connector and I don't have 12 volts, then probably what I'd do is I'd back up like this, and I'd go over to this relay, and I'm going to look at the relay, and here's the diagram, okay? Right here, you can see the control side of this relay is 86 for the positive, 85 for the negative. I could verify that. 86 and 85 are going to be those corners, right? So if I hold it here, 86 is that bottom left and that top right? So I'd use my probe. Like this power probe is the killer, right? So this one is probably not going to be the best one. I'm going to need to get a smaller one. I check here and here. In fact, let me grab it. All right, as promised. So we got 12 volts down on that corner. Let's see what we got up at the top. Nothing there. All right, let's check here. 12. Okay. All right, so based on those measurements, what I can tell is 85 is getting 12 volts, 86 is getting 12 volts, 85 is getting ground, 86 is getting 12, 85 is getting ground. There we go. So that's going to magnetize this relay. Well, that makes a lot of sense because that's what the actual click is, right? So the fact that this is getting 12 volts in ground, then we can go over to 30. 30 is going to be that bottom corner. There we go. Just got to get that T-pin. I just rechecked. 30 is the top corner. Okay. Let's go with that. All right, if I hold this, I had it set this way. It actually really needs to be set this way. Kind of doesn't matter in your diagnosis until you get to this point. 30 bottom right. 30 bottom right is correct. All right, I've got 12 volts coming in. So in this diagram, if I have 12 volts coming in on 30, when I put this relay in, because it's got 12 volts on 86, ground on 85, that should swing the little switch over, and it should take that 12 volts from 30, pass it to 87, all right? And that's how that one should work. So let me get it poked back in exactly how it should be. And this is the part that's tough. Without a relay tester, you can't really verify you're getting voltage out of 30. Make sense? So if we were to try to proceed on this diagnosis with a relay tester, it could be easy because the relay tester will stand it up here and you can actually measure what's going on to that terminal, right? You can measure 30 in place and you can measure 87, but because I can't, we know that 30 was here, so 87 is the top corner. So what I could do right now, I could do a continuity test from 87 here, and then I got to go all the way down to that compressor to right here where the positive is, right? So if I wanted, I could do 12 volt, I could do continuity from that terminal 87 to here. That's a big check. Or again, in this case, I already did the test and I got 0 here and I got 12 volts here, so I actually already know the wire's good, right? But this is where a lot of people fall off. If you don't have 12 volts here, you got to trace it from there, and it goes up here to that terminal 87. Cool. So just knowing the circuit, the diagnosis makes it pretty easy. But I'm going to draw this circuit and actually talk my way through it in the wiring diagram. But for now, hopefully that makes sense. What I'm going to do is stab this back in, and I'll see. Let me make sure 30 is in the right spot. 30 will be down here. And again, it doesn't actually matter which way you put the relay in because it's going to work either way. But in actuality, 30 is that bottom one, and 87 is this top left. So I'd have to do continuity from the top left down to that connector, right? Now let me go down there and I'll see if I can actually even do any measurement while holding the camera. It's pretty unlikely. All right, so the goal is gonna be to check the voltage at this connector. You see I got it right there, all right? I disconnected the connector and I back probed it on the positive. That's what that is. What I need is, Carol, my trusty assistant, is gonna do scan tool, click on. Yeah, we'll do off and then do on. When he goes to on, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the test with the power probe or with the meter. Now the voltage has been dropping during this diag, so I'm getting like 11.8. This is key on, engine off now, right? So again, part of the reason that this is so hard to do with a meter is it's like two hands, you know? So if I get up here to this, I should get 12 volts on that. All right, that thing is hard to hit from here. All right, we got 12 volts there. So it's officially diagnosed.
You know what it is?
Maybe, but you're gonna have to find out. No cheating. All right, I got people spying on me, so look, I just checked to make sure we had positive coming in on that positive one. It's got 12 volts and yet it doesn't activate. So the defect is actually the clutch. So that's why I have this compressor with me today. All right, that's how you diagnose it.